Hi guys, welcome to this quickly made video about these cold neon LED strips. So cold neon because it just looks like neon lights, but these are pieces of plastic that are filled with small LED lights. So when you light it all up, it looks like a neon tube. I've had these things for more than a couple of years, and I haven't even used them until today. And that's because a friend of mine was making signs out of these things, and yeah, it looks good. And I told them that you know what it lacks. Plug it in, it's on, the sign is there. But I remember the neon lights before. They had these patterns to them, so they blink, they lit up in sequence and stuff like that. But this being an LED uh, thing, we can do a lot more. We can control the brightness of it, stuff. So that's why I made this video, just to show him, how it could be done. So that's it. Enjoy the video, and I promise I'll make another one that's better prepared, because what I'm planning to do is actually make some sort of a controller for these things that he can use. So I'll tackle that later in another video. But for now, this is just a proof of concept. What do you need to do to control the brightness of these cold neon LED thingies? Okay. Okay, so there you go. Still seems to be pretty flexible. Now let's try it out. So it still works. Seems to be a little bit weak. Oh, I get it. The power supply. This thing's supposed to be 12 volts. I was using my 5-volt power supply, so I'll just switch it out for a moment. There you go. Let's try it with 12 volts now. Oh, there you go. So it is. It's really bright. And now let's start with some of our tests. Of course, let's do the destruction testing. So, will this bend? It'll bend around a piece of wood. Have this PVC pipe. Yeah, it bends nicely. Now it can bend in that direction, but since it's got this large part here, will it also bend in the other? Yep. Yeah, it seems to be pretty solid, considering this thing's been sitting in the box for about 2 years already. So let's see how much it can bend. I'm gonna be squeezing this end. There you go. So you can do a 180 on it. Ah, okay. So it seems to be yeah, something's breaking there. So it can do a 180, but you got to be careful. Or it's going to lose the connections. But it seems to be pretty resilient. It's coming back. Let's try the other direction. And interestingly, the end still still working. It's only those LEDs in that part, and it springs back. So it's pretty good. So normally you wouldn't have bends that are too tight with these anyway. If you really need a tight bend, I suppose you could just cut it and make some type of other connection. But yeah, that makes a pretty good right angle. That's it. So, in order to control the brightness of the neon LED strip, I made this short program in Arduino. Okay, so basically what it does is it takes an input from a potentiometer. Okay, so it reads the analog value, and then it writes out a value to control the PWM port. So that's a pulse width modulation, and that controls the brightness of the LED. So this is just for initial testing. Uh, we'll connect it to the actual LED strip using a MOSFET to handle the current. So here we go. Just connected our setup to a scope. So as you can see, that's the waveform being generated by the Arduino. So the point here is we're not going to control the voltage. So right now it's 5 volts because it's just controlling the LED. Once we connect to the 12 volt power supply through the MOSFET, uh, we'll have a 12 volt signal coming out that's going to look like this. So half of the time it's going to be on and half of the time it's going to be off. So that's what PWM is. We're trying to modulate the width of the pulse being sent. So now I will try to adjust the potentiometer. Okay. So if you take a look, you can see the correlation between the width of the pulse at 5 volts and the brightness of the LED right there. So as the pulse gets wider, the LED becomes brighter also. And as the pulse gets narrower, as you can see, the LED becomes dimmer. So that's what we'll be using to control the brightness of the LED strip. Okay, so what we've done now is connect the MOSFET to our Arduino setup, and so it now acts as a sort of a dimmer or brightness controller for the LED. So what we'll do next is connect the LED strip to this part. So now we've connected the neon LED strip to the MOSFET, so we can now control the brightness. Since we have an Arduino, we can program various stuff to it, like blinking or whatever effect you need. Okay, so that's it. It's pretty quick and not very detailed, but once I get to working on the actual controller, I'll post that video here also. There's going to be a lot of things to consider, like for example, in my final, in the last video, you might have noticed why I sort of cut a piece and not use the entire strip that I had, 3 meter strip. And that's because there are a lot of things to consider when actually designing something that's going to be used. Like the Arduino setup, the wires that I'm using, I'm pretty sure they're going to heat up uh, too much, because the whole 3 meter thing is going to consume a lot of power, and there's going to be a lot of current running through those wires. So things like that, selection of the wires that you need, heat sinks on the MOSFET. If I'm going to use a PCB, how wide traces are going to be, stuff like that. But anyway, uh, hope you enjoyed this short and quick video, and I'm just going to have to clean up the mess that I made and make a better video next time. See ya.